He said even a ROOBA could do my job, so I went back to work. Months later, he sent our son to school with pills and CPS showed up. Now, my husband is struggling to manage his job, and our family is falling apart. I was sitting across from Tara at the dinner party, pretending to enjoy the conversation, but the weight of her words still hung in the air. She was laughing with a group of our friends, but her eyes kept drifting over to me, and I could feel the familiar sting starting to grow. Well, Tara said, raising her wine glass with a sarcastic smile. Jason's been so busy being a stay-at-home dad. He's really got it rough these days. The room quieted just a bit, and I could hear the uncomfortable shift in the tone. A couple of our friends tried to laugh it off, but I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I didn't respond right away, just nodded like I always did when she made these kinds of comments. But it hit harder tonight. Maybe because it had been building for years, the little digs, the way she looked at me sometimes, like my job at home wasn't important. I was supposed to be the one who made everything work. The one who took care of the kids, made sure the house didn't fall apart. Yet, Tara never seemed to get it. And tonight, for the first time, it felt like the truth hit me square in the chest. After the dinner, while the kids played with their friends, I found myself standing outside in the cold, staring at nothing. She wasn't wrong in one way. I was a stay-at-home dad. But what she didn't get was that I was doing something. I wasn't just sitting around. The work I put in wasn't the kind you could measure in a paycheck, but it mattered. At least, it used to. I went to bed later that night, the sting of her words still buzzing in my head, wondering when I started feeling invisible. Tara had made it clear for years how little respect she had for my role. She might not have said it outright, but the tone, the dismissive looks, those spoke volumes. I wasn't sure when it happened, but I was starting to lose myself in all this. I started wondering if I mattered at all, both to her and to me. And for the first time, I couldn't brush it off. Something had to change. I needed to prove my worth. To her. To myself. I needed to remind myself that I mattered. The next morning, Tara was in the kitchen, half listening to the kids argue over cereal while I stood by the door, trying to find the right words. I'd made my decision last night, after lying awake for hours, thinking about everything. It wasn't just about the dinner party comment. It was everything. The way she never appreciated what I did. The way I'd let it slide for years. I'm going to look for a job, I said, my voice firm. No hesitation. Tara barely glanced up from the sink. What? Why? Because I'm done. I took a deep breath, trying not to let my frustration show. I can't keep doing this, just staying home, waiting for you to notice I'm here. I need to work again, Tara. I've been out long enough. Her eyes flicked up, and she sighed like I was the one making the ridiculous decision. Jason, you're fine where you are. You've got it all under control here. Why would you want to go back to that stress? I mean, look at the kids. They need you. I am here, Tara. I've been here. But it's not enough anymore. I feel stuck. I could feel my voice rising, but I kept going. I'm not doing this just for you or for the kids. I'm doing it for me. I need to feel like I'm contributing again. She paused, wiped her hands on a towel, and turned to face me with that same dismissive look she'd always had when I tried to make a change. What? You think you can just pick up and re-enter the workforce after all these years? You've been out of it for so long, Jason. What are you going to do? You'll never be able to balance both work and home, not with everything we've got going on. I'll figure it out, I said, swallowing the anger bubbling up. I'll make it work. I need to do this. For me. She scoffed, turning back to the dishes. Yeah, right. You're just going to end up as a cashier or something. I can see it now. You'll barely be making enough to cover daycare, let alone what you're getting here. That one stung, more than it should have. She always knew how to hit where it hurt, but this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. You know what, Tara? I shot back, voice steady but cold. That's better than staying home as a glorified housekeeper. She didn't answer, but the silence between us felt like it screamed. I spent the next few days updating my resume. It felt good to have a project again, to remember who I was before all this. Before I was just the guy who took care of the kids and scrubbed the kitchen floor. I applied to a few positions, nothing spectacular, but enough to get my foot back in the door. Tara didn't say much about it after that morning. She still wasn't thrilled, but she didn't push back either. Then, a week later, I got an email. A marketing consultant position. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. The pay wasn't great, not even close to what Tara made, but it was a job, and it was mine. I accepted it without hesitation. Tara raised an eyebrow when I told her. A consultant? Seriously? You could do better, Jason. I'm doing this for me, I said again, and for once, I meant it. She didn't say much else, but the tension in the house didn't let up. Tara didn't seem convinced that I was capable of balancing it all, and frankly, neither was I. But I had to try. I had to prove something. Not to her, but to myself. The first week at my new job felt like a lifeline. I was finally using my skills again, something that made me feel like a person outside of my role as a dad and a homemaker. Sitting in meetings, brainstorming ideas, working with a team, it was all a reminder of who I used to be before everything started to feel like it was on pause. It was refreshing, even if the pay was lower than I'd hoped. But when I walked through the door at home, the reality of what I'd left behind hit me hard. Tara was still struggling to juggle everything. I could tell she was pissed about it, even if she didn't say anything directly. She called me multiple times during the day, each time with something new for me to handle. Ben has soccer practice at 5, don't forget. And Lucy needs a dentist appointment. Also, we're out of milk. Did you remember to call the plumber about the leak? It was like she couldn't get through the day without asking me for help with something. But I couldn't just drop everything at work. I couldn't keep running back to save the day every time things got hard for her. She was managing her stuff, but now I was managing mine. By Thursday, I was exhausted. I walked in after work, and the smell of frozen pizza hit me before I even stepped inside. The house was a mess, dirty dishes piled in the sink, toys scattered across the living room. Tara was on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. The kids were huddled in front of the TV, half-heartedly eating their pizza. I stood there for a second, trying to get my bearings. Tara glanced up and sighed. What took you so long? The house is falling apart, Jason. You're barely doing anything to help. Look at this place. I clenched my jaw. The frustration I'd been holding in all week was bubbling to the surface. I'm at work all day, Tara. I can't fix everything from there. You're the one at home. You need to manage. She narrowed her eyes. I've been managing everything alone all week, and now you're telling me to figure it out? The kids need things. The house needs things. You can't just come home and act like everything is fine. I exhaled, trying to stay calm, but it was hard. I'm not acting like everything's fine. I'm just saying you need to step up, too. I can't keep doing this for both of us. I'm at work now. She stood up and threw her hands in the air. You chose to go back to work, remember? Don't act like I'm the one who made you do it. I opened my mouth to respond, but she cut me off. I'm the one who's been holding everything together. I'm the one who's dealing with the kids, the house, the appointments, while you get to leave and have a real job. Don't forget about that. I bit back the retort that wanted to spill out. This wasn't the time. I turned to the kids, trying to steady my breath. Hey, guys, why don't we clean up this mess together? I'll get the dishes if you take care of the living room, okay? They groaned, but they started moving. I grabbed the broom and started sweeping up the pizza crusts, trying not to let the frustration show. Tara went back to her phone, completely disconnected from what was happening around her. By the end of the week, the resentment between us had thickened. She didn't say much, but I could feel it, her disappointment, her anger. It was like I had betrayed her by taking this job, by not being available for everything like I used to be. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to fix it. I was trying to prove I could do both, work and home, but so far, it felt like I was failing at both. I went to bed that night thinking about what I was doing. Was I making a mistake? Was I ruining everything by wanting something more than just being a stay-at-home dad? I didn't know, but I wasn't about to quit now. Not when I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I rushed out the door that morning, barely making it to the car in time. I had a big meeting at work, and it was one of those days where everything felt like it had to go perfectly. I kissed Tara on the cheek as I passed her, but I didn't pause long enough to say anything meaningful. I was already thinking about the presentation. Have a good day, I said, the words more like a reflex than something I truly felt in the moment. I didn't even think about Ben's lunch until I was halfway to the office. My stomach churned when the realization hit. I'd left it on the counter, forgotten in my rush. I tried to picture Tara handling it, but I quickly pushed the thought aside. She was already overwhelmed with the kids and everything else. She'd figure it out. She had to. By the time I got to my meeting, my mind was still scattered, trying to mentally organize my day. I felt distracted, but I was determined to pull it together. I didn't want to mess this up. Not now. The meeting went well, but I couldn't shake the nagging thought that I'd forgotten something important. I checked my phone during a break and saw several missed calls from Tara, each one leaving a longer voicemail. My stomach sank as I listened. Jason, where's Ben's lunch? He's really confused, and now I can't find it anywhere. Did you pack it or not? Call me when you get this. Great. I wasn't in the mood to deal with a crisis. I hit the voicemail button again, trying to hear the rest of her message, but the next one was even worse. Jason, I don't know what happened, but Ben took the wrong bag to school. He's got something in there that doesn't look right. They're questioning him. Call me right now. My heart skipped a beat. I jumped out of the meeting room, pulling my phone from my pocket, dialing Tara's number as fast as I could. She picked up after the second ring. Jason, where the hell are you? The school called, and they're saying they found pills in Ben's backpack. Pills, Jason. Pills. My brain froze. The weight of the words hit me all at once. I remembered the bag I had meant to pack with his lunch. But instead, I had left out the lunch and, in my rush, grabbed the wrong bag. The bag with Tara's medication. Jesus, I'll come right there, I said, the panic starting to rise in my throat. I hung up the phone and ran out of the building, hardly aware of the world around me. My mind was racing. What had I done? How could I have been so careless? I could already feel the eyes of the school staff on me, the judgment, the fear. What kind of father had I turned into? The drive to the school felt like it took hours, even though it was only 10 minutes. I parked in the lot and bolted toward the entrance, pushing through the doors, my heart hammering in my chest. I found Ben in the principal's office, sitting on a chair, tears streaking down his face. He was surrounded by a couple of school officials, all of them looking at me like I was a failure. Tara stood off to the side, her arms crossed, her face drawn tight in frustration. Ben, I'm so sorry, I said, kneeling down in front of him. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Are you okay? He didn't respond at first. He just looked at me with wide, scared eyes, his hands trembling. The principal, a woman I'd never met before, stood up. Mr. Brown, we had to contact the police. This is a serious situation. We need to investigate how the medication ended up in your son's backpack. I stood there stunned. What? It was a mistake. It's just my wife's medication. She's been on something for pain. He must have grabbed the wrong bag. The principal's expression didn't soften. That's not how this works, sir. We need to be sure this was accidental, and until we are, we have to follow procedure. I turned to Tara, who was standing against the wall, silent and cold. What did they say? They're questioning him, Jason, she snapped, her voice tight. They're making it sound like we're criminals. This is a nightmare. Ben's face was crumpled in confusion and fear. He didn't understand what was happening. He didn't know why the police were involved, why adults were suddenly so angry. I wanted to scoop him up and tell him everything would be okay, but I didn't even know if it would be. I'm so sorry, Ben, I whispered, but the words felt hollow. The tension in the room was suffocating. The principal was still watching me like I had something to prove, and Tara's silence was worse than any yelling she could have done. She didn't look at me, didn't make a move. The weight of the mistake hung over me, thick and suffocating. I didn't know what the hell to do next, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just a mistake. It had become something much bigger, and it was my fault. The fallout came fast. Within hours of the incident, the police had escalated the situation. They'd questioned Ben, and the school had made sure everyone was aware that something serious was going on. By the time I got home that evening, the whispers had already started. The phone calls, the texts, everyone knew. Tara had been silent all afternoon, and when I stepped inside, I could tell she wasn't angry anymore. She was terrified. You've ruined us, she said, her voice hollow, like she'd already resigned herself to some grim fate. This is all your fault. Everything we've worked for, gone. I didn't know what to say to her. There were no words that could fix this mess. The CPS investigation had started within hours. Every detail of our lives was now under a microscope. They wanted to know where the medication had come from, who had access to it, how Ben had gotten it. What kind of parents were we, really? Neighbors were already talking. I could feel their eyes on me when I ran to the grocery store, when I picked up Ben from school. Even the other dads at the park gave me the side eye. There was no escaping it. At work, it was worse. I could feel the shift in the air the moment I walked into the office. People who'd once looked to me for leadership now treated me like I was some sort of liability. Colleagues who used to respect me whispered behind my back. Did you hear about Jason? His kid brought drugs to school. I saw the pity in their eyes. It wasn't the same as before. The camaraderie was gone, replaced by quiet judgment. I tried to focus, tried to pretend that everything was normal, but I could feel my confidence draining with every passing moment. By the time the CPS caseworker called for the first meeting, I was running on fumes. I had spent the last few days calling lawyers, trying to get ahead of this, but nothing seemed to make a dent. Every move felt like it only made the situation worse. Tara was on edge, snapping at me over everything. She couldn't handle the kids on her own, but every time I stepped in, she shot me down, as if I was still the one to blame for everything. You need to fix this, Jason. You're the reason this is happening, she said, barely looking at me as she folded laundry. Her voice had a sharpness to it that was like a knife, cutting through any hope I had left. If we lose everything because of your mistake, it's on you. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her that I was already carrying enough of the weight. But instead, I just nodded, because what else was there to say? She wasn't wrong. I had made the mistake. It was mine to own, and I couldn't escape it. At the CPS meeting, the caseworker was all business. She asked questions like she already knew the answers, like she was just waiting for me to slip up. Tara was visibly uncomfortable, shifting in her seat, but we both stayed quiet while she ran through the process. We're doing a thorough investigation, she told us, looking at me with those sharp, knowing eyes. We need to ensure the children's safety, and that includes everything, your home environment, your ability to care for them. Her words hit me like a punch. Safety. My son had been questioned by the police. And now this. I couldn't even look at Tara when the caseworker left. The weight of it all was crushing. The CPS investigation, the neighbors, the pity at work, and most of all, the look on Ben's face when he came home from school that day, confused and embarrassed. He didn't deserve any of this. But I couldn't let it all break me. I wasn't going to let it destroy everything I'd worked for, everything we'd built, even if Tara thought I had ruined it all. I spent the next few days gathering every bit of evidence I could. I got in touch with the school, arranged meetings with the CPS worker, and worked on clearing up the misunderstanding. But Tara, she kept pushing me away. The more I tried to fix things, the more she pulled away. She had no faith in me anymore. I can't do this, Jason, she told me one night, standing in the kitchen while I scrambled to organize papers. I don't even know who you are anymore. This mess. It's too much. You've put us in a situation we might not get out of. Her words cut deep, but I couldn't stop now. I couldn't fall apart like she was. I had to stay focused on fixing things. The kids needed me. Tara needed me. Hell, I needed me. You may think I ruined everything, I said quietly, my voice tight. But I'm going to fix this. For Ben, for you, for us. I'm not giving up. Her gaze met mine, filled with something I couldn't quite read. She didn't say anything, but I saw the flicker of doubt, the struggle. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't entirely sure anymore that I was the person who'd ruined everything. Maybe I could show her that I was still capable of doing something right. But for now, I had to hold on to the belief that I could make it right, even if she couldn't see it yet. A few weeks had passed since the CPS meeting, and nothing had gotten easier. Every day felt like a balancing act, and I was constantly teetering on the edge of falling apart. At work, I was drowning. The hours were long, the pressure mounting. My boss had pulled me into her office that morning for a performance review, and I could already sense where it was going. Jason, we need to talk about your performance. She started, no small talk. She looked at me over her glasses, lips pressed in a thin line. You've been distracted. Your focus isn't where it needs to be. You've missed a few deadlines, and the quality of your work is slipping. I nodded, trying to force some professionalism into my response. I'm doing my best. I'm juggling a lot right now. She didn't look convinced. I get it, but this can't continue. We need results, Jason. I need to see you back on track, or we're going to have to make some decisions. I wanted to argue, to tell her that I was doing everything I could, but I knew she was right. I wasn't giving my best at work, and I sure as hell wasn't giving my best at home. When I got back to the house, I was already mentally exhausted. The CPS case still loomed over us, and it felt like Tara was becoming more resentful with every passing day. I walked in, and the first thing I noticed was the chaos. The kids were arguing in the living room, backpacks scattered across the floor. The kitchen was a disaster, dirty dishes, crumbs everywhere, a pile of laundry in the corner. Tara was sitting at the table, phone in hand, her face a mask of exhaustion and frustration. She didn't even look up when I walked in. "Kids need help with their homework," she muttered, barely audible. "They're falling behind." I felt a lump form in my throat. "I know. I'll get to it." But nothing was getting better. The kids weren't the only ones who were struggling. Tara was too. And it felt like no matter how much I tried to fix things, everything just kept getting worse. I could see it in the way she looked at me now, that same look she had when we first got married. The look that said, "You're not doing enough. You haven't been here, Jason," she said suddenly, her voice sharper than before. "I can't do this by myself. I can't keep everything together while you're off trying to fix everything else. The kids are falling behind. I'm barely keeping up, and you're still not pulling your weight. I can't do it anymore." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew she was right. She was always right. I had been checked out in so many ways, caught up in the mess I'd made at work and the pressure from the CPS investigation. But hearing it from her, hearing her say that she couldn't do it anymore, it cut deeper than anything else. "I'm trying, Tara. I really am," I said, my voice cracking. But I could hear the defeat in my own words. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tara stood up, shaking her head. "Trying isn't enough, Jason. I need you to be here. To help." And then, later that night, when I finally pulled into the driveway after another long day, my phone buzzed with a text from Tara. I opened it, half expecting more frustration, more blame. But what I read made my heart stop. "I'm done. If things don't change, I'm leaving." I stared at the words, my chest tightening. I wanted to call her, to beg her to talk, to explain myself, to fix whatever had gotten so broken between us. But my fingers were numb. I didn't know where to start. I sat in my car for a long time, just trying to breathe. The weight of it all felt like it was crushing me from every direction. I was failing at work. I was failing at home. And worse, I was failing the one person who mattered most. I had promised myself that I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't afford to give up. But sitting in that car, staring at the empty house, I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending like everything was fine. I was losing everything. My family, my job, and any sense of control I'd once had. I didn't know what to do anymore. I felt trapped in a life that I couldn't fix, no matter how hard I tried. I walked through the door that night, tired to the bone, trying to hold it together. The last few weeks had been a blur of work, CPS meetings, and Tara's silence, punctuated by her occasional outbursts. I didn't know what was going to break first, me or everything around me. I dropped my bag by the door, and then I heard her voice, Tara's voice, coming from the living room. She was on the phone with her mom, and I could tell by the tone that it wasn't good. "I don't know how much longer I can take this, Mom," she said, her voice cracking with frustration. "He can't handle it. He's incapable. It's like I'm doing everything on my own. I'm thinking about leaving him. I don't think he's even trying anymore." The words hit me like a slap in the face. I stood frozen in the hallway for a moment, listening to her talk about me like I wasn't even there. Like I wasn't already killing myself trying to hold this family together. I took a deep breath, trying to control my anger, but I couldn't let it slide this time. I stormed into the living room, cutting her off mid-sentence. "You're thinking about leaving me?" My voice came out harsher than I meant, but I couldn't stop it. "You're seriously talking about that to your mom? After everything I've done?" She glanced up, startled, and then quickly turned back to the phone, lowering her voice. "Hold on, Mom." She hung up before I could say anything else. "Tara, what the hell?" I couldn't keep the frustration out of my voice anymore. "You think I haven't been trying? You think I'm not doing everything I can?" She stood up, pacing now, her face tight with anger. "You're selfish, Jason. You can't handle both, your job and the house. I can't keep picking up your slack while you pretend everything's fine. The kids are falling behind. I'm barely keeping it together, and you're still making excuses. You don't see it. You don't see how bad this is." I could feel the walls closing in. "I see it, Tara. I see everything. I see how you tear me down every day. You never give me a chance. You never acknowledge what I'm doing here, what I'm trying to do. All you do is criticize. You think it's easy for me to?" "You're ruining their futures," she shouted, throwing her hands in the air. "You can't even handle the simplest tasks. This mess, Jason, this is because of you. Everything's falling apart because of you." Her words cut like a knife. I felt my chest tighten, my throat closing up. I was failing. She was right. I was a failure, a disappointment. Everything was collapsing around me. my job, my family, my confidence. All of it was slipping through my fingers. I took a shaky breath, but I refused to back down. I wasn't going to let her win this. You think it's easy for me? You think I'm not giving everything I've got? You've been tearing me apart for years, Tara. You never once stopped to ask me if I was okay, if I needed help. You never acknowledged anything I've been doing. Not once. She stared at me, silent for a beat, her face a mix of anger and disbelief. You think you've been doing enough? You've been barely holding it together. This is my life too, Jason. You think you can just get a job and fix everything? You can't even manage your own damn life. I closed my eyes, the weight of it all threatening to crush me. But I couldn't keep letting her speak to me like this. Not anymore. I'm not perfect, Tara, I said, my voice steady. But I've been trying. I've been trying harder than you'll ever know. You keep acting like I don't care about this family, about you. But I do. I'm not some failure who doesn't give a damn about what's happening here. I've been fighting every day, maybe not the way you want me to, but I've been fighting. You just refuse to see it. She shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. Maybe I would see it if you actually did something around here. Maybe if you were present, instead of buried in your work or whatever it is you're doing. Maybe then I wouldn't be so damn frustrated all the time. I felt my face burn with the sting of her words, but this time, I wasn't going to shrink back. You know what, Tara? I've been present. I've been here. But you keep dismissing me. You keep belittling everything I do. You make it feel like nothing I do matters. I've been doing my best to fix this, but I can't do it alone. Her eyes narrowed. I'm not asking you to do it alone. I'm asking you to be here. For us, for the kids, for this family. I am here. I yelled back, my voice thick with emotion. I'm here, Tara. I'm trying. But you've been pushing me away every time I try to make a change, every time I try to stand up for myself. You never give me a chance to fix anything because you're too busy telling me how much I've messed up. She stepped back, her face hardening, and for a moment, we just stood there in silence. The weight of it all hung between us, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Tara spoke again, her voice quieter, but still laced with bitterness. I don't know if I can do this anymore, Jason. I don't know if I can keep going like this. Maybe it's better if we just end it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I wasn't going to back down. Not anymore. I'm not giving up, Tara, and I'm not letting you give up on me. I'm standing here. I'm still fighting for us, even if you don't want to. I don't know how long we stood there, staring at each other, both exhausted from the fight. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing up for myself. Even if Tara couldn't see it, I was finally making a stand. I wasn't going to let her, or anyone, define my worth anymore. As I left the room, my heart heavy but my resolve firmer than ever, I knew I wasn't giving up. Not on her, not on me, and not on us. Over the next few weeks, I made it my mission to turn things around. At home, at work, everywhere. I wasn't just going to let Tara's accusations define me anymore. I wasn't going to be the guy who could only talk about change but never actually made it happen. I started by setting up a system for managing everything. The kids' schedules, appointments, schoolwork. I created a family calendar on the fridge, color-coded it for each kid, and made sure there was a solid plan for every afternoon. The chaos had become too much for Tara to handle on her own, and I could see the relief on her face when she didn't have to constantly ask what came next. At first, she wasn't happy about me taking charge. She'd mutter under her breath when I took the lead on things like meal prep or organizing schoolwork. She hated the idea of me trying to manage everything, as if me stepping in was some kind of insult. But I kept pushing forward. I made dinners every night, organized the kids' extracurriculars, did the laundry, everything. I didn't just want to help. I wanted to make her life easier, even if she didn't know how to accept it. At first, Tara resisted. She didn't like how I had taken over, how much control I seemed to have gained. She would look at me with frustration, like I was trying to do too much, or doing it all wrong. But over time, I started seeing little shifts. She was still distant, but I could tell she was noticing the difference. The house was getting cleaner. The kids weren't falling behind in school anymore. The constant stress was starting to fade, at least for her. One evening, I came home late from work to find Tara in the kitchen. She was putting the finishing touches on dinner, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't look completely overwhelmed. The kids were sitting at the table, actually talking about their day instead of arguing. "How was work?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. "It was good. Busy, but I'm starting to get back on track. I leaned against the counter, watching her. I think I'm finally finding my rhythm. She nodded, stirring something in the pot, but didn't say anything for a beat. Then, quietly, she added, "It's been better here. With everything." I didn't know what to say to that at first. I had hoped she would notice, but hearing it felt like a small victory. "I know you've been working hard," she continued, almost like she was choosing her words carefully. "It's different, but better." "Thanks," I said, trying to sound casual, even though my chest was tight. "I'm just trying to make sure everything works. For everyone. I can't keep pretending like everything's fine if it's falling apart around us." She didn't argue with that. We ate dinner in relative peace, the kids talking about school, and for a moment, it almost felt normal again. Tara wasn't cold, wasn't on edge. She was just there. A week later, the CPS case was closed. We got the letter in the mail, a simple statement saying that after their investigation, they had no concerns about the kids' welfare. It was a huge weight lifted off both of us, though it didn't exactly make everything perfect. But it helped. It helped a lot. At work, things started turning around too. My boss called me into her office one afternoon, and for the first time in a while, there was no disappointment in her eyes. "Jason, I've been seeing a real improvement in your work. Your team's picking up the pace, and your focus is better. I just wanted to acknowledge that." I didn't know what to say. It felt good, damn good, to hear it. It was like I was finally back to the person I had been before all this started. I could feel the respect coming back, not just from my boss, but from my colleagues too. The whispers, the pity, they were fading away. The kids were doing better in school. I could tell they were more relaxed, not weighed down by all the tension in the house. Ben had even gotten a few compliments on his improved behavior at school. Tara and I didn't talk about it much, but I noticed the little things. The way she would look at me, like maybe she was starting to see me differently. And one night, after a long day of running around with the kids, she sat down next to me on the couch. "I think we've both been pretty shitty to each other lately," she said, her voice low, almost reluctant. I looked at her, trying not to show how much that meant. "Yeah, I've been a mess." She nodded. "I've been hard on you. I've been, I don't know, expecting you to just fix everything without letting you be part of it. I'm sorry for that." I didn't expect her to say that. The words felt like they were hanging in the air between us, awkward but real. "I haven't made it easy on you either," I admitted. "I've been trying to fix things, but I wasn't always doing it the right way. I'm still learning." She reached for my hand, her fingers brushing mine. "We've both got a lot to work on, Jason, but I think we're getting there." We didn't fix everything in that moment. There were still some things that needed to be said, some cracks in our relationship that needed mending. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were moving in the right direction. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days ahead. But as we sat there, side by side, in the quiet of our living room, I realized that maybe the hardest part of all wasn't the work or the mistakes. It was learning how to meet each other halfway. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready. A year had passed since the CPS investigation, and things had finally started to settle down. My career was thriving, work was stable, and I was earning the respect of my colleagues again. At home, Tara and I were learning to find a rhythm. The kids were doing better, school was manageable, and we weren't walking on eggshells around each other anymore. But there were still moments that reminded me how far we had to go. Like that afternoon at Tara's cousin's birthday party. I was standing in the kitchen, pouring myself a drink, when I overheard a conversation. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words cut through the noise. Tara's cousin, Emma, was talking to some of the other relatives. "Oh, Jason does everything now," she said with a sarcastic laugh. "I guess it's not all bad being a stay-at-home dad, and working and cooking and doing everything else." The words stung more than they should have. I felt my jaw tighten, my hands gripping the glass in front of me. It wasn't just Emma's voice. It was the tone, the judgment, the mockery in her words. She wasn't the first person to joke about it, but for some reason, hearing it now, in this moment, made something inside me snap. I knew Tara wasn't blind to what I had been doing. She'd seen how hard I worked, how much I'd changed, how much I'd taken on to keep things moving. But hearing her family talk like that, like everything I was doing was just some part of a joke, it made me question whether I'd ever be seen for what I really was, a partner in this family, not some backup plan. I took a deep breath, put the drink down, and walked out into the living room. Tara was standing by the window, chatting with a few family members. I could feel the tension in my chest. I wasn't going to let this slide anymore. Not after everything. Tara, I said, my voice low but firm. She looked up, startled. I could feel all the eyes on me now. Her cousins, her aunts. They could sense something was coming. I wasn't sure where this would go, but I knew it was time. I need to talk to you, I said, making sure I had her attention. Now. Her face fell slightly, but she nodded and excused herself from the conversation. We stepped into the hallway, away from the crowd. What's going on? She asked, her voice softer now. I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. I heard what Emma said. About how I do everything now. And I'm done with it, Tara. Her eyes widened, and I could see the gears turning. Jason, it's just a joke. You know how they are. I shook my head. It's not just a joke. I've spent a year doing everything. Working, taking care of the house, the kids, everything, and it's still not enough. You've seen me change. You've seen me fight to be a partner. But when your family talks about me like I'm a punchline, it hurts. I'm not just the guy who fills in when you need me. I'm a partner here, and I'm done trying to prove myself to them. Or to you. The silence hung heavy between us, but I didn't back down. Tara stood there for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. I never meant for it to seem like that. I know how much you've been doing. But I get it. You're right. They don't always see it, and I've let it go too long. I exhaled, the tension draining a little. This wasn't going to be easy, but I wasn't backing down anymore. I need you to recognize it, too. We both need to recognize how far we've come, and how far we still need to go. But I can't do it alone, and I'm not going to keep carrying the weight without getting the respect I deserve. From you, from them. Tara's shoulders sagged, a deep sigh escaping her. You're right. We've both got things to work through. I should have stood up for you more. I've let my family's judgment get to me. I'm sorry. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were actually on the same page. There was still a long way to go, but this was progress. She wasn't just listening anymore. She was hearing me. We stood there for a moment, and I knew this wasn't the end of the conversation. But I also knew it wasn't the end of us. Thank you, I said quietly, for hearing me. Tara nodded, her eyes meeting mine. We've both got work to do, but I think we're finally figuring it out. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I knew my place, both in my family and in my career. I had earned it. I was no longer fighting to prove myself to anyone. I was standing firm in who I was, and that felt stronger than anything else. Whatever came next, I was ready for it. And this time, I wouldn't back down.